Welcome to the Fatal Vision podcast. This is one of your hosts, James McGinnis, and being joined by the other host, equal in stature, Billy. Welcome back. You've been on the road quite a bit.
I was not only on the road, James, this past weekend, I was in the air
Mm,
and then I was on the road and then I was on water in a ferry.
just like that movie with George Clinton, the Up in the Air.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, Clooney.
Oh,
Yeah, he's up in the air a lot in that movie.
yeah, I
Like,
was in Mackinac Island for a wedding.
is that part of Michigan?
Yeah, yeah, it's very hard to get to, and there are no cars allowed on the island.
Pretty cool. We went to an island with no cars when I was a kid, but they had golf carts. They didn't have horse and chariots like you did at Mackinac.
Yeah, yeah, I rode around on horse-drawn carriages. I also incidentally rode a golf cart because
Oh,
we all went golfing.
oh, okay.
All the groomsmen
Oh,
and
wow.
others. Yeah.
That's the
I
last time I went golfing was on a groomsman day.
do you know how to golf?
No, that's the only time I've ever even tried. And then like I like tried to do it, and everyone was like, "Why are you wasting our time? You can't golf."
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, well, how am I ever going to get good at it if I don't try now?"
I had to buy an outfit to be able to go. I told the groom like, "Hey man, I don't have any golf attire." And he's like, "Oh, you could just go to the store in town and
Oh, go to the
pick
pro
something
shop.
up.
Oh, I'm sure it was really very affordable.
$170."
That's a good money well spent. But you'll always have it going
Next time
forward.
I go golfing.
Golfing, yeah. Maybe you and I can do an episode
From
from
the
the
from the
from the
links.
from the links from the back nine. Um, we can sort of like narrate, like, yeah, now we're on the ninth hole, and and I'm thinking about McDonald's, and like those NPR things, like, yeah, I've just come around the corner here, and I'm seeing, yeah, man.
So I was thinking about the podcast while I was there. So
Good. I thought about it a lot. We missed a whole week last week because of I had a disease,
mhm.
contracted an illness, and it caused us to miss our one chance at interviewing a real Fatal Vision alum. So that's been shattered into 1,000 pieces, our dream, but we're gonna
our
keep going.
our dream of interviewing Jim Blackburn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're not going to release this until after we've already gotten him back, and then he'll know how much we were stressed about this. 'Cause right now, he's not even responding to your texts.
Yeah, he responded 2 days ago.
He just said he was glad I'm healthy again.
Well, let's pull it up. Why not? We'll get back to you soon. Glad he is better, Jim. That was Monday, 8:46 a.m. And today at 3:35 p.m.,
You
I
very,
said, "Hi, Jim. Just following up on your availability."
oh man, yeah. It's the week before Labor Day. I think a lot of people are not going to be able to be reached. Um, we can sort of cope with that right now, I guess. It's Labor Day. No one's paying attention.
Yeah.
Doesn't
No,
matter at all.
nobody tunes in until after Labor Day.
Yeah, I was saying that for 2 years. Literally, the only thing that matters is like one day. It's literally the last day of the whole thing. We're talking about the election, but by the time you're hearing this, it'll already be a historical artifact. Uh,
Yeah.
if you're hearing this, it means Kamala Harris won. Because if it goes the other way, we'll have been exterminated at best,
At
at
best.
worst, at worst, put into some sort of a colony.
Yep. We're not here to hide our political allegiances.
Uh, yeah, well, um, what is our responsibility to our friends and neighbors who are um like Obama says we should be nice to them, like, talk to them like good people, and then we're out there just like fanning the flames on our public podcast.
Right.
So maybe we should dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's all going to be ancient history by the time anybody hears this. They won't even remember who Trump is by then. They'll be already thinking about Trump Jr. in 28.
Yep.
So we'll probably end up editing all that out, hopefully. And
Corey in the tech room. What's it called?
oh, Corey, yeah, he's our sound engineer. He's gonna bleep all that out. Yeah, and you'll get it. You'll get the welcome packet.
It's gonna be a
That
5 minute bleep.
yeah, you're gonna get he's gonna give it to you. Um, it'll be in an email with an attachment. And we're working on a lot of premium content that's going to be paywalled. Um, and we've also got an official logo. I was able to come it up, make it with the GPT, and Billy thought it was okay. And Deirdre liked it too. She said it was way better than the ones of us, of like the airbrushed figurines of us as like losers in a basement.
Deirdre didn't like the ones of us as losers in a basement.
She didn't think that should be the public face or the public cover of the
Did you
podcast.
think it should be the public face?
I guess I'm so warped. I thought that would be so funny. Like I just would be,
Yeah. It's
but
funny to us.
like the general public would just think it's like this is some sort of a sick person.
Well, I sent one of them to my friend Pat Megley. Shout out to Pat,
Yeah,
uh,
thanks for listening, Pat.
Fatal Vision reader and Blind Faith reader.
Yeah, but yeah, actually, he read Blind Faith first.
Yep. And Pat said he couldn't tell who was who.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't really in the AI artwork thing, they didn't really nail it down who's who.
Well, but in this case, both guys are wearing Notre Dame hats, which only I wear.
Yeah, as all of our fans know by now. Um,
I could get you a matching Notre Dame hat.
And so the
What?
one you sent, Pat, it was both of us sitting in a basement in a Notre Dame hat, covered in filth.
We weren't covered in filth in that one. I like the ones where you're like in a recliner,
Yeah, and I'm
covered in
just
your
like covered,
stained
absolutely
shirt.
just like drenched in food and waste, and like threatening to read private emails on the air. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the idea of like I just can't get over that other podcasts out there, Billy, or subscriber. Like if you're looking at the Pod Save America podcast, it's like you're scrolling through it, and all of a sudden there's like this thing that's like subscription only content.
Who's buying
I was
that?
like, wait, what? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, what? Why would I pay to listen to that? And I like those guys. No.
I know. Well, it's like such a weird. I mean, so much. There's so much paywall on podcast, like the Slate. I don't know, slow burn or whatever.
Hmm.
It's like 99% of it is like paywalled.
Really? I listened to the whole thing about Monica Lewinsky and in the Watergate one.
No, you're right. There's just a lot of bonus content that's paywall.
Like, if you want to hear my full interview with Linda Tripp, you can pay extra.
Hey man, she's dead. That's not cool.
Well, she wasn't when he record when that guy
Oh,
did
so
that.
you actually know that like the uncut interview is what was paywalled?
No, that was a joke. I don't
Oh,
know. Maybe we put Blackburn behind a
oh,
paywall.
paywall. Yeah, we'll do
Cut.
maybe like an edited segment with him in it, and then the real uncut thing will be paywalled. Um, and the way we're going to do it is it's going to be like a round robin. Like we're not going to let everybody get access to it. You're going to have to pay just to play, and then you win um, the ability to hear it through constant, generous gifts to me and Billy. It's not a subscription; it's a gift. So
Yeah,
we're working very hard with our accountants to try to figure out a way to justify to pass the make sure it's tax free and how to classify it as a gift while
yeah.
you're gonna get access. So we're working on that. We're working on the AI stuff.
We're
We're working
planning
on
the Friends of Billy and James dinner disco dance,
yeah, the Golden Circle
golden circle
finalists.
table, when you can drink champagne at our table.
Yeah, and you'll still, of course, get access to the disco. Admitted to the disco as well. Um,
Fresh juice, fresh melon.
fresh, fresh flower, a lavish Southern California style brunch, toast, huevos rancheros.
All right, tonight's chapter.
Chapter. This is chapter five, part one. I want to let Billy start reading it.
Okay, now we're back in the narrative with Joe.
Mhm.
The laboratory team from Fort Gordon spent 4 days inside 544 Castle Drive. In addition to the 81 blue threads in the master bedroom, they found 19 in the bedroom of Kimberly McDonald, the majority of them under the covers that had been tucked up around the dead girl. Two threads were found in Kristen's bedroom, but in the living room where Jeffrey McDonald had said his pajama top had been torn during his struggle with the intruders, no fibers from it were found. A CID agent with a magnifying glass spent hours on his hands and knees searching through the nap of the living room carpet, but all he found was some confetti from a child's game and a few strands of tinsel which had fallen weeks earlier from the family Christmas tree. Investigators found not only fibers, but splinters. These splinters, which were blood stained and which appeared to have broken off the club that had been found outside the back door, were located in all three bedrooms of the apartment, including Kristen's, although Kristen had not been attacked with the club. No splinters, however, were found in the living room where Jeffrey McDonald said the intruders had struck him.
All
Pass.
right. There was There was, of course, a great deal of blood in all three bedrooms. In the master bedroom, in addition to that which had soaked the carpet, sheet, and bedspread, several drops of blood, forming a circle around about 6 inches in diameter, were found just inside the room near the doorway that led to the hall. There were also spatters of blood on the walls and one more blood-streaked indentation on the ceiling, a mark which suggested to investigators that a club from which blood had already been dripping had been raised high above the head of whoever had wielded it in preparation for the striking of a particularly forceful blow. A similar indentation was found on the ceiling of Kimberly's bedroom, and spatters of blood were found high on the wall above her bed. Additional larger drops of blood formed a trail in the hallway between her room and the master bedroom. Across the hall in Kristen's bedroom, there were blood spatters on the wall above the bed, blood in large quantity on the top sheet, blood stains on the side of the bed, and a large, heavy stain on the floor next to the bed. This, of course, was in addition to the bloody footprint which led away from her bed toward the doorway. Blood was also found elsewhere in the apartment. There were traces on the door to a hall closet that contained a large stock of medicinal supplies, such as prescription drugs, syringes, hypodermic needles, and disposable scalpel blades. Several drops, as Ivory had noted, had dripped onto the right side of the sink in the hall bathroom, and as Ivory had also noted, 5 drops, each about the size of a dime, had dripped onto the kitchen floor beneath the sink, directly in front of a cabinet. When Ivory got down on his hands and knees and opened the cabinet door, he found in the extreme left rear corner, tucked away behind a can of Ajax, a sack of potatoes, some scrubbing brushes, and a pile of old rags, an opened box which contained several packages of Perry Pure latex disposable surgeon's gloves.
Huh.
It's weird that that would be pushed so far back, like as if McDonald thought that would be like an effective way of hiding it. Yeah, I definitely didn't use these. Go out of the way. Um, I think Joe's doing a good job of sort of letting you fill in the blanks with your imagination. My, it's my read.
Yeah.
Um, we're almost to the last page. Maybe you just want to pick it up and we can sort of draw ourselves into it. Really.
Yeah. Uh, there were certain places, however, where blood was not found. No blood was found. So that's a sentence that is also a standalone
Yeah.
paragraph for people that are who don't have it
Not
in
if
front
you're
of
not
them.
reading along, if they didn't send it to you yet. Yeah.
There were certain places, however, where blood was not found. And now Joe's going to give us a list, right? No blood was found, for instance, nor were any fingerprints on either of the two telephones that Jeffrey McDonald had said he'd used to call for help after checking the blood-drenched members of his family for signs of life and attempting to resuscitate them. No blood was found on the floor of the hallway where McDonald said he'd lain face down and unconscious after having already been stabbed in the chest. And with two small exceptions, no blood was found anywhere in the living room where McDonald had said he'd been attacked. The two exceptions were the speck on the outer lens of the eyeglasses, which were identified as belonging to McDonald, and a bloody smear having roughly the configuration of a fingertip across the top of the March 1970 issue of Esquire magazine, the issue with Lee Marvin on the cover. So no blood is found in any of the places where it should be if McDonald's story is
Was
true.
if he was hurt in the living room, and then to top it off, you can sort of just have this image of him dripping in blood or smearing blood. Just oh, I better read this magazine about the. I gotta get some of those details in here. Hold on. The fact that he actually thought to grab it and get his glasses on and read it. well, before calling for help, just to sort of refresh his memory is really dope for us.
The word pig, probably, you
Yeah,
wanted to be
can't.
sure about.
Yeah, Pig, Groovy. All right.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
work today, a fella, one of my colleagues, was talking about the dark side of the 60s and Woodstock and the hippie culture, and he mentioned the Manson killings.
Wow.
And I resisted the urge to tell him all about Fatal Vision.
Yeah, I think he would have loved the chapter about how everyone was having a moment about the dark side of the 60s in Fort Bragg after the killings, thinking that like the Manson family was like the start of a new trend.
Yeah, it was going to be happening every day, all the
Every
time.
day, just these hippie cults. Uh,
Examination of the word. Oh, sorry.
no, 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 no. You go ahead.
Examination of the word pig on the headboard led technicians to conclude that it had been written by a right-handed person in full control of his motor faculties who had used the first two fingers of his right hand, those fingers encased in a thin covering such as a rubber surgical glove, and who had found it necessary to return to the source of the blood at least once in order to obtain sufficient quantity to enable him to complete the writing of the word. Jeffrey McDonald was right-handed. Examination of the blood on the kitchen floor, focusing on the extent to which it had splattered, led the CID to the conclusion that it had dripped from a height of between 20 and 30 inches, as it would have if someone bleeding from a small wound in the chest had crouched or knelt in front of the cabinet in order to remove something from inside it.
So he goes from I mean, obviously, we're gonna have a million chances to do this, but what Joe's depicting is he just poked himself with a scalpel at the sink, and then he's walking over to the get the gloves out of the cabinet
Yeah.
and just dripping a little teeny bit of teeny drop. Um, so it's just an absurd contrast. Uh, okay, so now we're moving into the conclusion of the chapter, and we can sort of see the plot turning very fast and against McDonald here in the narrative.
Yep.
William Ivory paid a return visit to Jeffrey McDonald's next door neighbors. Oh, here we go. He asked again if they were certain they had heard nothing from 544 Castle Drive during the early morning hours of February 17th. The warrant officer's wife said no, she was not certain at all. She was, in fact, now certain that she had heard sounds coming from the apartment, but in the first shock of learning what had happened, she had been afraid to mention it. The way the apartments were laid out along Castle Drive, the neighbors actually lived above the McDonald's, although the entrances to the apartments were adjacent to one another. The master bedroom of the upstairs apartment was thus directly above the McDonald master bedroom. The warrant officer's wife now said she could remember having been awakened by the sound of Colette McDonald's loud and angry voice. She could not recall what words had been spoken, but she emphasized the anger in her voice. Her 16-year-old daughter also spoke again to Ivory. Her bedroom was directly above the McDonald living room. Often in the past, she had been able to hear conversations from the apartment below or the sound of a phonograph or television. Sometime after she had gone to bed on the night of Monday, February 16th, she said, She had been awakened by a sound from below. It had not been either the phonograph or television, nor had it been the sound of a struggle between Jeffrey MacDonald and four intruders who were clubbing and stabbing him. She had heard nothing of the sort. What she had heard, she said, had been the sound of a male voice. It had sounded to her like the voice of Jeffrey MacDonald, either sobbing loudly or laughing hysterically. Pause, paragraph. When asked at a press conference whether MacDonald was considered a suspect in the murders of his family, the Fort Bragg provost marshal said, "There are a lot of suspects. Captain MacDonald is certainly a witness."
I'll
End of
never
chapter.
forget on that end of chapter. Yeah, thank you. I'll never forget the first time I read that detail about the neighbor hearing him either sobbing loudly or laughing hysterically.
Yeah. Um, it's still, I'm sitting here, my dad just getting chills reading that. I mean, like, he just, it's just like, it's so damning.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah,
you
I'm
make of,
thinking,
yeah,
huh?
why did they offer this information in during the immediate aftermath?
Why did they?
Didn't they? Like, this is after second interview.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
the mother said it was like this, the whole thing was too traumatic. She didn't want to say anything. She just didn't feel, what did she say? In the shock of learning what had happened, she had been afraid to mention it. So there was
Right,
fear.
right.
I mean, you certainly wouldn't want to say something and you know McDonald's going to be coming. He's your next door neighbor. He lives basically within like one thin layer of sheetrock from you. You don't want to start telling the CID that you think his story is bullshit. And then you heard Colette mad at him.
Well, I'm thinking about I'm here in an apartment in New York City. The hallway to my bathroom, the wall on the right side is the wall that on the other side is my neighbor's bedroom. And I used to have a neighbor named Zach who texted me one night that he could hear my footsteps en route to the bathroom and it was keeping him up. Love the guy, very sensitive ears.
No, I don't love
If
it. Yeah.
I know you don't love him, we could talk
No.
more about that. In
Oh,
case he's listening, I don't want to hurt,
oh,
you
yeah.
know.
He's probably going to figure this out, find this podcast.
He's a good guy. But if four hippies had broken into my apartment where I was with with three other people who were living there, and the three had been horribly slain, and I had been beaten. I think Zach would have heard it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have. I mean, I think the fact that two of the family members woke up listen because of much softer noises than what you would have heard, um, suggests that it's not that what they just slept through the home invasion and then woke up for the sobbing.
Right.
Um,
I'll put a question to you, James, that our friend Nick, another listener, brought up to me. I know we've addressed this question before in past episodes, but when you read this, when you read the facts as they're laid out, where the blood is, where the blood isn't, where the fingerprints are, where they're not, the latex gloves, the neighbors not hearing the home invasion, but hearing Colette yelling and hearing Jeffrey sobbing. Why is this a hard case?
oh, well, we're going to hear all about that, that the CID bungled the scene. And then that makes everything not count. Isn't that sort of what, oh, it's, I mean, that's what, that was the latest and last attack on the evidence from Morris. Um, and then you go
You're talking about
big,
Errol Morris, who wrote
yeah,
The
sorry,
Wilderness of
yeah,
Error.
not to confuse him with any other buddy person named Morris. Um, but like if you go back to the 80s or 90s or whatever with those stupid like television magazine shows, it's just you just end up getting it gets filled up with like people saying that they think they were there, or like there's people false confessions, or like neighbors thinking they saw someone with a candle walking around. And then there's just becomes this cascade of witnesses
Hmm.
that makes everybody go, oh my God, it was all true. Like,
Hmm.
and who cares? Like, I think it's becomes easy to dismiss. I mean, we're going to go through lots of fun times where McDonald's at the grand jury, um, absolutely vexed by the lack of blood in the living room. Um, and then especially after they start typing the blood, we're not even close to that. I mean, this is all before any of it's even being typed. There's no trail yet of who's where and when. So you just go by blood, and it's very damning. And I think it's not a hard case for CID. That's what Joe's showing us here is like, okay, so the lab people did come, and some guy spent all day on his hands and knees in this pretty small room, and he found Christmas tinsel from 2 months before, but he couldn't find any threads from when McDonald said he held up his blue pajama top as a shield, a life-saving shield against the attack, the ice pick.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they're like McDonald's defense, though, they're gonna find like here's a photograph of a flower pot in the living room knocked over.
His wallet got stolen, and they lost the footprint, the bloody footprint at the lab, and they lost. I mean, I don't know why this is all spoilers, but they're going to lose his pajama bottoms. Um, there's going to be a lot of bungling, but it's not. I don't think it's so that you can combine that with McDonald's amazing, beautiful, charismatic life and his amazing track record as a healer and just all around super great guy. And it is a hard case. It just becomes a hard case for even like some really educated guy like Scott Foley, the actor. He says, "Well, I have a daughter, and I just don't want to believe anybody would do that." It's very creepy.
Creepy and weird.
Yeah, weird stuff. I mean, is that why you think it's a hard case? Is it McDonald's his star power?
um, you know, I think you've already nailed it. And I recently rewatched that Wilderness of Error series, and hopefully and there are talks in the work that we'll get Smerling to come
Oh yeah.
talk to us. We're reaching out to his people, but um, yeah, the thing about this case that is so endlessly frustrating is that like once you've got a handle on it, like McGinnis has laid it all out here, and it's pretty clear. When we talk to Jim Blackburn, he'll attest to the same. When I spoke to him on the phone, he said this is not a hard case. But for people that are looking for a conspiracy or who want to feel like there's more than meets the eye, there are just constantly people saying outlandish, implausible shit about their involvement.
Well, I mean, this is where you get into like this stop the steal hard case. Like Trump says the election was stolen. And a lot of people think that there was some shady stuff. Like Oliver Stone is on Bill Maher saying, well, didn't it seem a little off to you? Those votes just came in magically like that.
Dinesh D'Souza made a whole documentary about it.
So, I always love to, trace back Ted Gunderson, the father of QAnon, to, McDonald being a direct employee of McDonald and his sort of farcical latter days defense stuff where they just
Yeah,
start
It was Gunderson and it was that Prince Beasley
Prince
guy.
Beasley, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, well, once McDonald's convicted, like we're just gonna have him go out there and find anybody, anywhere, who'll say anything, and it'll be wild.
Yeah.
The confessions. Gr- Yeah, you actually sat through the Greg Mitchell episode. I couldn't watch that one. It was
No,
so
I didn't.
stupid.
The Greg Mitchell, is that the one who
He
allegedly
he,
wrote
he
I
wrote that,
killed?
and then they painted over it. Yeah, he painted his confession on the wall within the halfway house.
We're like, ah, we got to clean this up.
Yeah, we don't want to get any scandal here.
Well, Smerling jumps in at that point and says, I have to admit, I find that story highly implausible.
Really?
Yeah.
He says that to McDonald's lawyer.
Whoever he was talking to, yeah,
Yeah,
he said it seems very dramatic that he would write that on the wall and then like sprint out of the
and
house.
nobody took a picture of it.
That was-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Yeah.
Well, then you have Helena Stokely's mother on her deathbed.
And then even that gets people talking like, well, there's got to be something to that. She
Right.
confessed to her own mother. I was like, why does there have to be something to anything? It doesn't have to be at all.
Well, she
So there's
signed an
just,
affidavit
yeah,
on her deathbed.
she
Yeah.
signed an affidavit that Stokely confessed to her. And
Mhm.
remember, isn't there a great scene where Catherine McDonald says, and deathbed confessions are the most reliable? That's,
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if any journalist has looked into the life of Catherine McDonald. It's got to be bad.
no, yeah, she's a private citizen, really. I mean, it's not good. Did Jim have anything to say about that?
No.
No, he probably should leave that alone.
But that's another the time that Blackburn and Catherine would have intersected. You get the Jimmy Britt shit. Like, so people can't leave this case alone.
Only Britt had to bring himself into it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Billy, that's why we're at the impasse where we're at, where McDonald doesn't have any pending court stuff because the Britt thing just like injected all this extra, 7 years of seven, whatever it was until 2018 when it was finally couldn't be appealed again. Now he has to find new evidence. And that was the last new evidence.
Right.
So, um, So at this point, the appeal, the court has ruled all the fake confessions and all the Stokely hearsay, and I don't know what other fake evidence came. And then of course, then Jimmy Britt. It's all doesn't matter. It can't be brought to court again. So you'd have to be someone new that could come along. You'd have to have like Jim Blackburn say like, I know, I actually I think he didn't do it. I think he could like Stokely confessed to me that she did it. You have to have one of the principals come out now, and
Yeah.
that's not happening. The only reason this case is back in the news is because we're doing this podcast.
The
Um,
press coverage has been very gratifying.
yeah. Um, so in that sense, we're kind of at a disadvantage because we can't try to capitalize on any of the media circus. We can't drive down to Wilmington, North Carolina, and uh, like do media in front of the courthouse, or like do a special episode at the University of North Carolina or something. We're like, "What's up, North Carolina?"
Woo!
Yeah. But we're gonna do a lot of those road episodes later. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get on the road. We'll be on tour.
yeah, so it's all coming to a head. I thought this was a brilliant chapter, and like you said, just the detail of the laughing or hysterically crying thing is like more horrifying than anything I've ever read in my entire life. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't really think he was laughing, do we?
No.
But I mean, just the idea that he was like having a sobbing fit, and then like psyching himself up into like spending the rest of his life saying nothing was wrong, man. It was all them. Like
Hey,
that's the
man.
only. It's like the only human moment we've. I think that's probably what's so haunting about it is it's like it's this very fleeting window into being a human being about having done this horrible, like the worst thing a person could ever do, and like being real with himself about it, having a response to it.
Hmm.
And then there's nothing. There's no grief, no remorse.
Yeah.
So it's that you just get that one 16-year-old's half asleep through the floor. And then we're gonna get later we're gonna hear when Kassab gets access to the apartment years later, they do an experiment where they go upstairs and they can hear someone he can hear Pruitt and Kearns talking through the floor, clear as day, just having a normal chat.
Right.
Yeah, and then they like flip the table over, and it's like the loudest thing in the world if you're upstairs.
Hmm.
Um, so McDonald obviously, well, we're going to hear all about this, tipped it over very gently.
Yeah. He laid it.
Laid it so gently with the magazines, yeah, just sliding over, and that was the damage. So yeah, so this week we did the blood, and then there was another chapter back there where he took us through all the damage done to the apartment, which was like zero. So we're going through this, and then I want to just do jump ahead just so we know where we're going. Um,
We got a voice of Jeffrey McDonald coming up.
Coming up next week, hope well, yeah. So we'll probably get back to Jimmy Blackburn probably into the late fall, early winter at this rate, and then after the next voice of. Okay, so next week we have a voice of, and it's going to be looks like it's their wedding. Um, and then we're going to get another short chapter about sort of the aftermath. Where's what's Jeff up to? What's the Kassabs up to? What's Jeff's mom up to? So it's going to be bang, 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 bang. We're doing these really short chapters. McGinnis is just doing these really quick chapters right now. It's just like talk about page turning. It must
Yeah.
be agony for everyone at home to wait every week to go through these tiny little chapters.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming the people that are listening to this have read the book and they're just driving to work right now and want us to accompany them for a little
Yeah,
while.
they want, yeah, and then obviously put, if you are doing any of those things, please put it in the comments so we can have evidence that our cause is worthy and that you want to see it to completion. And we're doing it great. We're about 80 something pages in.
You know, when we did our first episode, the first time we read from the book, I think it was a spur of the moment call to do the we're gonna read
To
word
read
for
the
word.
book.
Like
Yeah,
read it word for word. Yeah.
that's interesting. We
Yeah,
did. It
that
was all spontaneous.
yeah, it was. It was. You said, "Oh, why don't we just do a quick lectio and see how the spirit moves?" Like I've seen other podcasts out there. There's one I've listened to where these guys are going through the Power Broker, which is another really
What's the,
long
is
book.
that a Nancy Pelosi book?
No,
Oh, that's the art
no.
of having wielding power.
The Art of Power is her new memoir.
Okay, all right, all right. What's the
Well,
power broker about?
Um, well, it's a Robert Caro book about
Oh, Lyndon Johnson.
the Power Broker came before the Johnson books. It's about Robert
Oh,
Moses.
okay.
But
Sorry.
it's like a th it's like if you watch MSNBC ever and like some journo comes on to like explain something, they'll usually have the bookcase behind them and they
Yeah.
all have the Power Broker. It's like
Oh,
the
okay.
work on political power that everyone wants to have read.
And I wish they could do themselves. So there's a podcast that's just like ruminating on the whole book, like
Yeah,
sentence
but
by
they'll
sentence.
they'll do like you know, section one, we're going to talk about what Caro did, but they don't read word for word. So what we're doing is different.
We're doing something extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we've uncovered here is just it's an absolute miracle. And I hope that everyone that's listening realizes that.
I'm sure they do.
Okay. Good.
All right, well,
Well, we're off the hook. We got through another episode. We did a great job.
James, I commend you for getting through it. I know that
Yeah.
you really didn't want to do this tonight because you're
Yeah.
very tired.
Yeah. Well, as everyone knows, I had a disease last week, and I don't know if you ever heard of long COVID, but maybe that's what I have. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if you're
probably.
still tired.
Yeah, you probably have long COVID, yeah.
Yeah. Well, God willing, next week I'll be more energetic and dynamic for the fans.
The fans count on your dynamism.
Did you get that? Oh, that was a great LinkedIn I sent you of the guys like you think weekends are for resting? It's like, oh, what's when you work? Just when you see real salespeople are practicing in front of the mirror all day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you want to tell our listeners about my Instagram influencer moment?
yeah, I saw Billy on a story.
Yeah.
Very, very big influencer. Um, where he's doing like a self talk about you can't. What does he say? Don't ever get
Don't get
comfortable.
comfortable. Don't get comfortable.
And then you walk by, you don't realize what he's doing. He's like, who are we talking to?
Hmm.
And then you realize it's a TikTok or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, don't get comfortable. And then he said,
I
"It's my man Billy."
yep.
And then you think that's going to lead to a lot of viewers to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the way I pointed at the camera when I said
Yeah,
don't get comfortable and then turned and walked away, like
yeah.
most natural thing in the
Uh,
world I could have been doing.
so you're so at ease with your self.
My masculine
Yeah,
power.
masculine power. You're wielding it,
Yeah.
with um, precision and restraint.
Restraint.
Yeah, which is what good allyship is all about.
Yep. We're just here to be good allies.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, that's what we're doing here.
And that's why this podcast is free to listen. And, we try to keep it free through all of your generous gifts. Please, if you have a minute, I know you do, when you're done this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, share on all your social media accounts, and
And
donate
donate.
to my Venmo. And just mark it as a gift.
Hey guys, my bike got stolen with my backpack and all
This
my.
is a little, I hate to do this yet again, but did anybody in this special group send me special treats on Venmo?
Oh, God. Whew. All right. Yep. Keep
All
keep
right,
keep
keep
donating.
keep keep donating, keep giving, and we'll try to keep producing. Um, God willing, God bless, and we'll call it a night.
All
Corey,
right.
you can pull the tape.
All right. Thanks,
All
Corey.
right, thanks, Corey. Good night.